Hello everybody, Pinstripe here. What is going on? Welcome back to the Hogshead podcast here on episode 7. Got a lot to talk about today and get through because it's more of a mishmash of everything in this video. It's been about a month since the previous one, which I think is a good interval period between each episode. And like I said, a lot has happened in between that time. So Reheated, the upcoming Open Hogs of War editor, my animations and everything I got planned with that. Hogs of War 2, my thoughts on that, and that video that I touched on, and some other information that I will be making videos on and talking about later on, but I may touch on in this episode. So starting off with the Reheated trip, going into some more detail. Overall, it was about 3.5 hours there. I've never been to Sheffield, but it's a nice city to be in and spend some time in. I was only there for 2 days, but on the first day, I arrived, checked into my hotel. Didn't have anything to do until the evening where the game was being showcased at a local bar. Had some food there, met the team, met Jacob, that was awesome, and then proceeded to stand and watch people play the game because it was basically a game night where a bunch of different games were being shown by different indie devs and companies, hosted by Sumo Digital, which was awesome. And yeah, I just stood and watched people play, mainly looking for new players and seeing how they interact with the mechanics of the game, like aiming, throwing, running, just general movement, and looking for feedback, which is something I'm always looking for from you guys as well. In a lot of the Reheated based content that I've made so far, I'm looking for that feedback from you because it's a good way for us to influence development in some way. And to put it simply, the Reheated team are listening to everything we have to say because we are the community, and I think that's awesome. That's a major step that we've made in establishing ourselves as a community, and obviously we continue to grow members all the time, which is awesome, both in the Discord and just across the internet. So on the second day, that's when I actually went to their studio within Sheffield Hallam University, which, as I also mentioned, was one of my old university choices, so it was kind of ironic ending up there in some capacity. But I went to their studio and essentially sat and played the game all day. I played against Jacob. I beat him. I'm never going to let that down, by the way, because it was kind of a weird experience to beat a developer at their own game, or at least what their game was in terms of the original. So played the game, gave my feedback, recorded a bunch of footage, took some screenshots, and generally just conversed with the team. What they have planned, what they're currently looking at implementing. There are certain things I currently can't mention, but I will be bringing up in future when I have the go-ahead, because everything that I make in terms of videos has to be approved by them before it's released, in case I say anything that I shouldn't. And that's just the case with a lot of companies. I've done it with Sega before, with the Daytona video, which is still on this channel. If you scroll back to the very beginning where everything started, you will find the Daytona video. I'm keeping it there for all time's sake because I waited so long for approval for that video. I may have gotten rid of a bunch of TF2 old stuff, but I want to keep that one because it took so long to wait for them to say yes. And yeah, people enjoy that video. It's got like 7,000 views, which is cool, I guess. But it's weird. It's the old one out. It doesn't serve any purpose on this channel. It's just there because it was something that I worked on. But anyway, going off on a tangent there. Everything has to be approved and go through them before I can upload it. Which is fine by me because, I don't want to blurt out something I shouldn't. But all I can really say is that we're in a really good spot at the moment as a community and as a fan base as well. Because with this release, it's just going to bring a whole new influx of people that have never heard of the game, that may also be encouraged to buy the original as well to see, how things were. But as I have mentioned previously, the next Reheated video will showcase the newer stuff. It's not just the base game that has been, graphically made prettier. It's, fully redone textures. So I've got 2 levels that showcase some of these new textures, and we're going to go into detail about them in those videos, primarily focusing on certain things like, how different textures indicate certain things on the map. So for instance, walkable surfaces. And Hogs of War has always had that sort of pixel art, like graphical blend to it, whereby textures will blend into one another, so the player kind of can see that it indicates that they can or cannot walk on certain areas. That kind of vibe, So Reheated is in a good place. There is plenty more content to showcase from that as well. But overall, the trip was very positive. It was awesome and just great to be a part of. And hopefully I'll be able to go up there again at some point in the future to record new footage so you can see how things have updated as well. Because I'm always in contact with Luke as well, and you guys know he's in the Discord. So if you have any questions for him regarding anything specific, then, do ask him. But overall, the feeling from the trip was that Hogs of War is very much relevant again. Both because, it's attracting new players, as it was on the game night, but also old players are realizing that the reheated project is a full-blown thing and it is going to be released in future. I think one of the biggest suggestions or pieces of feedback that has been given to myself or the team is customization. I think especially with the likes of the open Hogs of War editor being on the horizon, the idea of being able to change your pigs in some way, whether it be color palettes or hats or different types of models or even the levels themselves, just having a form of customization that allows you to easily mod something specific in the game is a big plus for a lot of people, me included. I mean, you guys have seen that I've wanted to change the color of teams for so long, and just having that function in the current game is awesome, but I just wish I could do it on the PS1 version, not the PC one, because, well, we know the PC one is flawed. But yeah, it's one of the key ones that's up there. Customization, a need for PvP, and a bunch of other things as well. The suggestions and just overall feedback that you guys have given so far has been awesome. But when I do showcase the new textures and everything, keep that feedback coming. It's always very much appreciated. Speaking of the Open Hogs of War editor, you guys saw my previous video on it, and it is one of the best things that has happened in a long time as well. That's another thing off my list. I've always wanted a free roaming camera in the current game, because you've seen my thumbnails and stuff, and a lot of people have asked me, how do you get the angles, the camera angles that you get for your screenshots, like taking images of the pigs like close up. And I just use in-game cameras. Like if you jump into a pillbox and you've got a pig near you, then just aim at that pig and take a screenshot, and there you go. The pig is close to you. And in some of the other earlier builds that I've shown as well, those do have the debug stuff. So debug cameras, free roaming cameras, so I can get close-up shots of pigs, as I always do. Where was I going with that? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, Open Hogs of War, free roaming camera. It's awesome. Download it for yourself. I was going to make a tutorial on it for people that were getting stuck or not understanding how to do it, but I never actually got around to that. I was too focused on getting the video out there and for people to see this free roaming camera. A lot of the levels do work. There are some that aren't working fully, and I need to give feedback to Hogshead on that one, but overall it is feeling very good, and being able to change the color of the skybox and the landscape and just the general lighting is a huge thing too, and having some form of customization is always a plus, as I touched on previously. So moving on to the next topic of order, and Hogs of War 2 was something that I touched on. That was a big one for me, being able to go to the studio in Sheffield and actually see the document for Hogs of War 2. It wasn't like the full document, it was just the specifics regarding the technical side, so how models will be created, the poly count, a bunch of different things regarding certain things I touched on, like the hard and soft layers of destructible landscape, that kind of thing. It wasn't to do with these characters and this storyline. It was more a vague-ish plot that hadn't really been sort of panned out yet. I'm guessing they did get that far, but I wasn't able to see those documents, which was unfortunate, but just knowing the overall premise of the Guns of Navarone and the Dirty Dozen was enough to kind of put the other missing pieces together, I suppose. And looking at those renders that I touched on as well, I don't think I would have liked the game. It's just got that sort of Worms 3D vibe, that sort of very chunky, very colourful character models and the backgrounds as well. And moving on to World War II is great, that's kind of the direction you'd expect it to go in. But then that asks the question of, okay, well, how will they go about showing Nazi pigs? Will they just be shown as a non-copyright sort of Nazi pig, you know, where they have like the red armband but there's no like swastika. They wouldn't have been able to get away with that. I don't think so. It was what, 2004 at that point, 2000 to 2004, maybe a bit later. I think it was between 2000 and 2006, because I swear I remember hearing about it in 2006 and being like, oh sweet, a sequel, I can't wait for that. And then obviously it didn't happen. Or maybe it was just finally released that it was being cancelled in 2006. I don't really know. But overall, it does raise other questions. You know, how would they have handled the whole Nazi thing and just that overall theme? You know, does that limit the Axis side? Because, you know, you've got Germany, you've got Italy, and you've got Japan. There isn't really much else you can do with the evil side of them. So maybe you could have only played as the Allies. I'm not really sure, but from taking one look at those renders, I could just tell that I wouldn't like the game, like, at all. Or, you know, maybe I would like the gameplay, but I don't think it would fit within the franchise. Because I guess, you know, with every sequel, fans aren't going to be happy, because if it splinters away from what it was before, then it's difficult to replicate that success. And that's the way with every sequel, I suppose. Because you want the same thing, you just want it done that bit better, or for it to be the same with some improvements and you know, minor changes. But this was a huge change. You're changing the plot, you're changing, I guess, the style of it as well, because, you know, you get the choice of 6 teams and then you fight against everybody else, whereas this was like, you know, you are just one team. And maybe you could pick the nationality, but again, I don't think that would really fit within the storyline, because, you know, if you're the Allies, and if it's fitting within the storyline from the movies as well that were influenced by, then that wouldn't have been the case. And it just wouldn't really have fitted in well. But overall, just getting that sort of Worms 3D vibe, because if you compare those renders to the Worms renders of Worms 3D, you could see some similarities, including the environments as well. The renders themselves are, you know, very basic, but just looking in the background, you can kind of get that Team 17 vibe, you know? Speaking of renders, I am just glad to get the Hogs of War Tales animated series underway with that first episode, which has taken pretty well, which I'm glad. But it is a bit shorter than I anticipated. My original plan was to create like a full episode that was like, I don't know, 3 minutes long or something, that basically focuses on every aspect of the game that is either dumb or is well known, or, you know, and I can make sort of comedy skits from that. I may in future end up doing like full episodes, because I'm thinking that's more of a productive way of doing it, I suppose. Because the initial animation, that first episode, took me about 2 days, and I did some jiggery pokery with the model as well, because it's not fully skinned yet. So if I were to move it in certain ways, it would not like it. So I need to do some more behind the scenes work in regards to the model and the rig, because I've only got one character model, and it is currently that German pig. But I will make alterations and get in some more models, and also maybe showcase some of the behind the scenes work as well for that. But it just depends how much time I have, because I mean, I've got all these things planned in regards to videos, so piling on animation on top of that is, you know, great as a personal project, but it does take time. And it was only because I was motivated these last sort of 2-3 days and had the time to do it and sit down and just focus on it, I was actually able to do it in that time scale. For me, it's made a bit trickier because you've got that 2D element of the mouth being animated in 2D, so it's sort of a mixture between 2 and 3D. The original intention was for the 2D textures of the mouth and the eyes as well to be, you know, put onto the model. But again, I was having issues with Maya, so I had to do it manually within Sony Vegas, which was fine because it actually worked out quite nicely, and I think I'm going to do that from now on anyway. But I need to make changes to the model in terms of the eye movement and stuff, because again, those are currently textures, but I'd rather them be 3D objects that I can rig and move around, and basically just get better animation, because once the model is finalized and rigged properly and skinned properly, then I have, you know, full freedom to animate as I please. But the other little secret behind the scenes thing is that the the environment or the background of the level is just a screenshot. It's just that I've posed the camera in a way so that it actually looks like the 3D models are in the level itself, but it's just a 2D plain background. So sneaky little camera trick there. A lot of you probably noticed it, but I don't know, it's a way of me being able to, I guess, tell the story of what is happening in these comedy skits, because, you know, I need the actual physical level in there to have the sort of, give it the Hogs of War stamp, I suppose, so it becomes more relatable. Because I'm not going to go ahead and draw backgrounds. I don't really have time to draw out every single background. It's much easier to use the open Hogs of War editor, go into the level that I want, take screenshots, and then use those as the background. So in the majority of the videos that I make in regards to animation and this Hogs of War Tales series, there won't be that much camera movement. There was in that first episode, but I think I got away with it just because of the way that I posed the camera, but I may not be that lucky in future. So, in conclusion, Hogs of War is in a very good place as it was last month and the month before. The community continues to grow. We continue to gain support for both Hogs of War Reheated, the Open Hogs of War project, and just the game in general. People are waking up and rediscovering both the community and the game as well, both on PC and PlayStation format. And obviously with having Parsec and multiplayer, it just makes things that little bit easier. As a closing statement, I do want to touch on the Hogs of War tournament that we're looking at hosting. Currently, it's just trying to find out the amount of players that are interested and basically what time everyone is available. So if you're interested in a Hogs of War tournament, then come along and join the Discord and put your name forward. There isn't that much organization planned at the moment because, again, we're just trying to focus on numbers. So there's no real date forecast at the moment until we actually get the amount of players that are going to be in it, because then we have to organize everything else. So, you know, certain people are going to stream it. I think I might be. I'm looking at hosting it in regards to being a commentator and a player as well. How that will pan out, I have no idea whatsoever, but it's something that I want to do. And we can, you know, look at streaming and maybe linking in with a charity, raising money at the same time. Who knows? There's a lot of different sort of avenues we can go down, but it does take a lot of preparation and timing. We can't just be like, okay, here's a tournament, let's go, but, you know, nothing's organized. Once you put it like on there online, it's the streaming bit that's the tricky problem, because, you know, you've got to get like cuts right, you've got to keep people interested, yada yada yada. There's a lot of things to do, but if you're interested, let us know. Come into the Discord, say hi, and we can go from there. But like I said, there's no date planned, and yeah, I'll keep you posted, I suppose. All in all though, guys, that's going to wrap everything up for this podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this summary of everything that has gone on over the last month or so. Plenty more to come in terms of videos and just overall content. Hope you can stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys later for the next one.